Today, boys and girls, we are moving away from our elegant spaceships and instead attempting to build a rugged, futuristic APC. For this build, we are going to need some references, and what better place to start than in my own country's military, the Australian Defence Force. Here we have the beautiful Boxer, durable, fast, and built to take a punch. Actually, I have no idea if that is even true, but it does look beautiful, and that's the only thing that matters. I'm extremely shallow, so I've been told. Next, we need to pair with this with some futuristic designs and references that we can lean into for the base shape. And in my journey of hunting down references, I came across an artist by the name of Eldar Safin and instantly fell in love with his portfolio. Any number of these designs deserve to be brought into reality, but it was this little number that stole my heart and had me at hello. So the goal is clear. Use the futuristic design as a starting point for the base shape and silhouette, then pair the details from real-world references like the Boxer to complete the look. This seems like a match made in heaven. What could possibly go wrong? Alrighty people, here we are at our very first stage in the blockout. And we know about the previous design, which is what I was leaning into. But I've already reached a point where I'm like, I have to stop myself. Because the more I look at it from other angles, I don't like it. But, this is sort of an important point where if you're in this sort of stage, you don't like something, this is the time that you want to experiment, right? The last thing that you want to be doing is having something that's overly detailed and pushing details around really substantially. You want to get the base silhouette, into a place that you're happy with. So I've got my big mech in here from the previous build that I used a little while ago. And just to quickly kind of point this out, these two are not independent. They are part of the same sort of universe in the world that I'm building. And this is something that I'm going to be doing towards a board game. So if you like big stompy robots and aliens, definitely stay tuned for this because I'm going to lean into that a lot, into the future. But for now, let's get back to the build. So over here, I've done some other quick examples where I just sort of allowed myself to look away from the reference and just experiment with some basic shapes and ideas. And immediately I started to feel more confident with some of these silhouettes. So I've kind of gone a little bit further here, and this is ultimately the one that I'm going to use and going to kind of go off with. We'll detail it up and we'll come back and talk about that. All right, boys and girls, after slaving over many nights and days, missing a lot of time with work obligations and my family wanting my attention, how dare they, we finally have the beast. All right, so let's run through it because I'm going to pretend that you are a general and I'm trying to sell it to you. So if you don't like my ideas, let me know in the comments. And if you do, then fantastic, give me a high five. So the initial point of this is that it's the futuristic APC. In the initial designs, the doors could basically open up, give us some sort of access points because I'm imagining sort of in real world kind of combat situations. This is sort of a futuristic kind of platform, and that, the guys can have multiple enter and exit points, to kind of get in the vehicle depending on where the vehicle is situated in a hostile environment. The hull itself, in the interior, completely gutted out, nothing really to kind of identify here other than it's just, I'm not wasting my time with the interior. I have no intentions of doing any work with that, so we'll just keep it simple for now. Probably spent a little bit too much time in the actual suspension. This is not something I really understood. I had to contact a friend to help explain a lot of things to me. But we have our double wishbone. That's as bad as technical as I'll get. But last quick thing as well is the initial here. You might have seen that briefly from the interior here, but I've got like a little rocket pod. And then the idea for this is that this sort of provides some sort of, fire support. So if the guys are being dropped off into a sort of a hot zone, this is sort of able to kind of give some sort of support to them and not just leave them on their own. So real world scenario, I have no idea if this makes sense. It makes sense to me, but I'm sure some sort of military analyst will be going, oh my God, they would never do that. Oh well, I'm doing it. If you've never really tried Plasticity, this is kind of wanted to illustrate something that it's so quick to kind of get into because the panels and things, at a glance, it probably looks more complicated than what it really is, but I've just left an isolated piece here and we're going to run you through like a quick build and how quick this is. So let's just duplicate this out. Now I'm not going to go into my shortcuts and things here. I just want to give you a brief overview on how quick it is to sort of achieve the details and looks. So I've got my panel here and let's just sort of take this back here so it doesn't stick out as far. It looks a little bit unrealistic. I'm not a fan of the way this is look. Okay, so this is where I kind of love the simplicity of this program. If you've got a panel here and I'm trying to make it universal with the rest of the panels at the back here and the side here, I can easily just sort of match the same sort of distance that this protrudes. So this is just a case of like I've got a shortcut for it, boom, it's done. It's already connected to it. Now, the next thing we want to do, if we're kind of using the ones surrounding it as our goal and reference, so let's just select all those edges, and we're going to give it a quick chamfer there. And I'm just doing something, eyeball, and it's just looking consistent. Don't have to go crazy with this detail. And same thing with the corners here. I've given them a little chamfer here just to sort of take away from the pinpoint edge. And the same thing here. Again, this stuff is so easy to adjust on the fly. I just absolutely love this program. Last thing we'll do really quickly is we'll give it this sort of kind of bolt detail that we've got here. Matter of just sort of drawing on a cylinder onto the surface and make sure it's not connected to it. Then we can just sort of, bury it inside, because we're going to use like a Boolean process for this one. Then all we need to do is duplicate it out. And then we can duplicate this one out as well. And we'll just take this one over here and we'll move it down the bottom, so we'll get some sort of even spacing. Okay, so let's just go through and Boolean this one at a time. And then we can go and select on the inside of the circles here, and we can sort of see our one over here is a little bit shallow. Sorry, not shallow, it's a bit deeper. So let's just take that in a little bit more. And then we can easily give ourselves a little ring for the next detail that sticks out. And we'll just go through and select that one by one. Very straightforward. Done. Same thing again, I can just use the existing plate around it to kind of match the same flushness. So really straightforward, very easy. Last little detail that we'll kind of implement here, if I can select them. Okay, so we'll get these corners, and then we can just sort of chamfer them again, finishing off the look and completing it. So yeah, really simple and easy. I mean, that probably took about a minute or so, not even. But yep, here we are, and it's time to move into some printing, and then we'll see how we go. Alrighty, so this took close to actually it's about 7.5 hours to print total time, and pretty disappointing because immediately I've got some problems straight off the bat with the main body. You can already see there in the frames that, the top section there where the rocket pods kind of go and sit into, that cradle that I built for it is completely come away and sheared. So that's pretty disappointing. So the other disappointing thing is basically just underneath the nose here. It's bent, it's sheared. Again, it just wasn't properly supported, which is disappointing because, I initially thought I actually had a lot of supports for it. I spent a bit of time kind of going through this, but obviously there just wasn't enough. So yeah, sometimes these things just don't work out. And then now that I'm trying to do a fit part for this, it's just, again, it's kind of bent and warped. So that's not going to fit correctly, and that's going to create issues. And so at this point, I'm pretty disappointed. So that would have to be a reprint. The smaller bits and pieces here, again, I think this is the scale issue that I thought I was going to have. They just are too small and fiddly to work with. Now, this is the scale that I did print it at. But ultimately, this is going to be a problem in the future because I do want to build an even larger vehicle that is on top of this, that basically will pick it up and take it into the battlefield, is my intention. So I think ultimately I'm going to have to kind of redo this at a scale that's more manageable and just simplify some of the parts. All right, people, we are back for round 2. Now, straight off the bat, you can see that I have scaled down the vehicle. This just made it more manageable from a print perspective. As you can see underneath the vehicle itself, rather having things independent with the suspension, I've just connected it. It made it easier, and I've also stripped back a lot of the details because the scale was just too fine and small. This just made a lot of sense to me. But yeah, we're ready to move into the next stage. So fingers crossed we'll have no hitches with painting and me breaking the airbrush or my air compressor breaking down. But I think we should be in a good place. If you have made it this far into the video, thank you so much. If this kind of content appeals to you, please consider helping me with a like and subscribe, as it will help spread the reach of the channel. A huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. As always, anything I build here can be downloaded and printed for your own collection. Next time, we will continue into painting and complete the model, so stay tuned for that. If I'm unable to complete this before Christmas, please have a Merry Christmas and a safe holiday.